wanted to introduce Karan Shah. So in all my years at ASD, we've had some students involved in Talk Tuesdays, but have never had a fully student-run Talk Tuesday. So we're really excited that he's a high school student here with us.
Yeah.
So turn it over to Karan.
Well, good morning, everybody. Obviously, it's a great day today. So today I'm interested in sustainability, and I'll go over everything. But the topic is about going green, and the main things I want you to focus on is obviously why. If you have your why, then it's more like it's good. And also, I want to focus on some common misconceptions people have regarding sustainability, because I feel like the blame is passed around wrongly. So just about me a little bit. I'm a senior at ASD. I've been here since K1, 14 years, so a long while. But I'll explain why I'm interested in sustainability a bit later, but I published a book. It's more of like a coffee table book about indigenous fauna in the UAE. And then I've been featured in a Khalij Times paper, and there's like 3 pages inside. And then I've also written a couple articles for like EcoMina. So first, before understanding why you should go green and everything, we should understand what is sustainability. Who do you guys think is what do you think the major causes of environmental degradation is? Does anybody have any ideas? Huh? Humans? Oh, that's very true. Well, so first of all, what is sustainability? Obviously, sustainability is not only in the terms of environment. We have sustainability in your work-life balance. If you're working too much, that's not sustainable. You can't keep it on for a long period of time. So that's basically what it's about. Like, if I'm eating too much and my diet is not sustainable. So the definition of maintain a process for a long time. So it's just about longevity. So the main causes of environmental degradation is obviously energy consumption, the lights in this room, the HVAC, everything. Then byproduct like plastics, for example, used tissues, you throw them away. And most of those are not recyclable. And then urbanization, because as we expand, we obviously get rid of forestry land and natural land. And in terms of city, New York, if you're on the Empire State Building, you can't see anything else besides houses. So underlying this, the root cause, I think most people know, is overconsumption. For the consumer, on the consumer side, we just use too much. We don't need as much as we use. But I'll get to like the complexities of this because we're obviously in a capitalistic society, so consumption is needed. And the major thing also I want to hit home is profits, because we obviously blame the consumer a lot for consuming too much. But if, for example, if a company like Saudi Aramco reduces their environmental waste by 1%, that's worth like 15 million consumers if they're just become like Buddhas and they don't consume anything. So just the pollution by sector, this is a nice chart. So we obviously have electricity and heat's the highest, then transportation, manufacturing, and then the rest of the industries. And this is in 2020. And you can obviously see most things are growing. But it's interesting to see, who do you think the biggest polluter in the world is country-wise? Does anybody know?
China.
Yeah, China. So China is the biggest one by far. Then the next is the United States, India, Russia, and it goes on. And I'll explain why China is actually the biggest compared, like India is a comparable population, but they mostly use coal for the energy production. And so that's why. And now I'm going to zoom in the US, because obviously US is a big country, it's a big polluter, and it's something most people are familiar with. So this is just another chart for the United States, EU. You can see China's growing a lot, India's growing a lot, all of these developing nations. We can see here, like developed nations, for example, their emissions profiles are actually quite steady, and something I wouldn't know before, compared to like Asia and Africa, where the emissions profile is increasing. So if we actually want to tackle this, we need to have a bifocal plan, because it's obviously different for these type of nations who are more developed, and then developing nations like in Africa and Asia. So for example, in the US, actually since 1992, their CO2 emissions profile has actually decreased by 3%. Obviously, it's not a huge thing, but it's something you wouldn't expect going into it. And then here's obviously the breakdown. Residential, commercial is the biggest, industry, transportation, because a lot of cars. And then the primary energy sources is obviously petrol and natural gas, but there's also some renewable and nuclear and coal, as you can see. And a common misconception about the energy profile is that some people say, oh, solar panels and all those renewable energies are actually produce more emissions than like coal and natural gas. But you can see here, coal is the worst. That's why China is the biggest polluter. They use a lot of coal. It's 2.3 pounds per kilowatt hour. Then petrol, then natural gas. And like things like solar panels, for example, they don't release any emissions during per use, but during production they release about 40 to 100 grams. So it's not about per kilowatt hour. So it's not about it's not that big compared to 2.3 pounds. And just look in the UAE. So most of our oil thing comes from natural gas and oil, and a little bit from coal, and a little bit from nuclear. And you can see as the population of the UAE increases, our energy consumption has increased. But we have a 2050 goal of 44 clean energy. Hopefully we reach that. But it's good for a country to have a goal. I can talk about that for a while. No, most countries don't. And so that's mostly the emissions profile. And now I obviously told you byproduct is also another type of it. So plastics, the plastic consumption in the world is increased heavily. And we have stuff like an oxymoron, like Great Pacific garbage bags. It's two times the size of Texas, which is very big. And then there's the same in the Indian Ocean and everything. They're just microplastics that obviously hurt the environment. And then we have forestry, every year forests are going down. And actually, in the States, for example, last year, forests offset 12% of carbon emissions, so they're actually very important because photosynthesis. So now we have a kind of view on what sustainability is. That's just like the background. The more important points are why sustainability and obviously misconceptions. So the effects of pollution, we all know this. Higher temperatures. The UAE compared to 1970 were like 1.5 degrees hotter, and nobody really likes hot summers, or at least me personally. Then we have stronger storms, like for example in Florida and all that stuff. There's many more hurricanes. Then rising sea levels, that obviously affects us all. Changes in life cycles, plants. Honestly, one of my favorite things is ecotourism when we go to national parks, but that obviously every day people need more stuff, and we talk about this in like economics. There's unlimited wants and limited resources, so we have to take it from somewhere, and that comes from the natural world. So why sustainability? I'm going to talk about, as a consumer, why you should care about sustainability. So basically, as a consumer, there's a micro chart, AP micro, but we always consume until our benefit equals our costs. So over here, our benefits outweigh our costs up till this point. And then this point, there's still some benefit, but there's more costs. Like for example, you're eating pizza. You eat the first slice, you're like, oh my God, this is so great. Then you eat the second slice, and you're like, yay. Then the third slice, the fourth slice. By the time you eat the sixth slice, you're like, I want to throw up. So there's a point where your benefit equals your cost, and you want to do it up till then. You want to stop when you're actually benefiting. So how does this apply to sustainability? The motivations for sustainability, obviously consumers, number one thing is price. In some cases that sustainable energy is actually less expensive. Obviously, I can't give you exact numbers because it depends heavily on the region of the place. That's why China uses coal a lot in their outer provinces. And also the prices that we have a lot of industry for the coal and the petroleum power plant, so we need a lot of investment to make the renewable energy, so that costs a lot. So the price is the main thing, that's your benefit and your cost. But there's also the environmental concern. For example, using a non-sustainable energy is actually more expensive, but I actually care about the environment, so I'm just at Zen, you know, peaceful. I might be paying a little bit more, but I'm actually caring about the environments more, so it's like a net benefit. But there's also on the flip side of things, if people are not educated and awareness is not there, they don't care about that, so then that's obviously not a factor. And for businesses, a very important is reputation, because I'll talk more about this like business reputation and actually greenwashing later. Do big companies like Google actually really care about the environment? No, they just care about share price, because they want to not get fired, they want to make money. And same for politicians. Their reputation is based off their policies, and that depends on the consumer base. So awareness is very important. So sometimes people are green, but that's not really, they don't really care. It's more reputation. So obviously blockers, price. If I'm in a developing nation or a developed nation and I'm thinking about my next meal and my next paycheck, I can't care about sustainability in that way. That's not something I can think about. So when we think about sustainability, we have to actually think about the inequality in our society, because obviously we're all here, we're all very lucky, thank God, but people are not. Then obviously environmental concerns, some places there's no awareness, they don't care. How can you do anything if you don't care? Then reputation, yeah, if your reputation is, for example, you're from a political party your voter base loves fossil fuels, and they don't, what are you gonna do about it? You wanna get voted? You're not gonna like say no to them. And then the most important thing is actually government, is lobbying. ExxonMobil or any Dutch Shell, any of them, they make trillions of dollars, all of them combined, and they don't want to lose their money. So if they pay a couple billion to the government or to give elected officials money so they can stay in power, they both benefit, because one stays in power and one makes more money, but the environment doesn't. They're going to do that. It's beneficial for them, and then people who love fossil fuels obviously stay in government. Big problem. So sustainability for me. So why did I start caring about sustainability? Obviously, I'm in a good position in life where I can actually care. So for example, when you're in a room with greenery, you feel better. Like there's a study where two rooms took SATs, and the room with more greenery actually did better. So I just felt better traveling around. For example, you're in Amsterdam, you're in these cities with a lot of greenery, you just feel nicer. So that just got me interested in creating this book about indigenous fauna in the UAE, which we always think of the UAE as a desert, and it's more than that, mostly a desert, but it's more than that. And in the UAE, we use a lot of foreign plants. Like for example, in the school, most of the plants are foreign, so that obviously takes a lot of energy up when we can use indigenous plants who are adapted to the environment. And then I started an initiative which partners with local companies to improve sustainability. So what is an actual action plan that we can take on and tackle sustainability with? What can we do? Obviously, we know sustainability, environmental degradation is bad for us. Everything's getting hotter. There's waste. You don't want to go to the beach, and obviously we're lucky here, but some cases you just go to the beach and it's all plastic. And so how can we tackle that? Past measures, obviously there's Paris Agreement, Kyoto Protocol. These countries come together and they make an agreement, but it's kind of on the back burner because I'll talk about this more on this slide. So future focuses is government regulation. So I was talking to a teacher yesterday about this. I was presenting my slides to him, and he was in an event with a company, and the company was sponsoring it. And it was about sustainability, and then they opened So obviously they're promoting to everybody, this is a sustainable company, and then the same day they open a factory who can produce 350,000 tons of plastic every day. So it's more talking about reputation. So the government regulation is just an expectation for everybody. If you're going to promote yourself as a green company, you should actually be green. It's also very tied to consumer awareness, so I'll talk about more. And then obviously subsidies for green investment, taxes on fossil fuels. And this is a huge part of it. International cooperation. That is mostly why nothing is really happening. Because, for example, you have two countries like China and the USA. If both of them scale back their fossil fuel production, they like close all their factories, they start opening more sustainable energy, they obviously, in the short run, they have to spend more money because they're investing in new energy, and they'll slow their growth. But if one of them does that, the other has the opportunity to like arise. So it's kind of like a Cold War, where essentially you have to keep doing it if you want to stay on top. And same for every other country. If we stop consuming and we slow down, some other country will take our place. So it's kind of a thing where we need to have a baseline international cooperation which we can promote, where governments actually like trust each other, but we'll see about that. Then obviously businesses, green investments, it's actually a very important thing. We need to make green investments because governments can't like push it down your throat. If you don't actually care about it in the first place, you're not going to do it. So if it comes from the economy, then it's going to be better. And then consumer awareness is obviously very, very important, because we're obviously brainwashed by these companies, for example, that solar panels actually like emit more than fossil fuels, but that's not the case. But it's just these companies who are pushing it down our throats and whatever, because they make money from it. So if we're aware as a consumer base of the problems in society, we can take that up with our people who represent us, and obviously they want to be in power, so they'll do what the consumer base wants to. So yeah, if we actually care, then the politicians will care, and if all the politicians will care, better. So in your life, obviously the biggest thing, limiting consumption. If you can, then just easy things like composting, recycling, advocating. And then the most important thing are companies. So you try to do this, but if you actually own a company yourself or you're involved with other companies, they're huge, so their impact will have more than one consumer. Any questions or any like debate topics you want to speak about?
I have a question. So if you care about this very passionately,
Yeah.
how do you advocate with your peers? So, the recycling, composting is kind of easy.
Yeah.
Limiting consumption, which is what really matters, is more difficult. Do you find yourself having ways in which to have these conversations with your peers, or is that too challenging?
For me, personally, I just went to the source. So I started the Emirates Green Initiative, which is we're partnering with local businesses. So obviously, businesses they emit the most. So if we work with them, that's obviously the biggest chokehold. But then, yeah, in most people don't really care. It's just it's mostly an education thing. They don't know that much, so you really can't. So it's something I have to work on, or maybe at ASD or in other schools, if we can promote maybe one day of teaching about green energy and all that stuff. It's also very important to UAE. It's like part of the reputation. They like to be green. So yeah. So hopefully after I finish all college apps, then that's something I plan on working on.
Are there certain countries that you think are models for the UAE that they can look at to learn from? Are there certain countries that are really doing this well, the sustainability?
The best country is probably Bhutan. They're not really super comparable to the UAE because they're a mountain country. They have less people. Their main export is actually hydro electricity. So they export to India. That's their main source of money. But they have more access to dams and rivers to make electricity. For the UAE, obviously they're a larger country and they're in the desert, so there's not really any big countries like that are pioneering in the field.
We have.
I feel like as a UAE, we're a great nation. we need to become the pioneers in this type of nation. Mr. Myers.
Karan, I don't know, I'm sorry that I arrived late, but we were talking yesterday about
Yeah.
the dynamics between competition and collaboration.
Yeah.
And how essentially in the UAE there's a lot of celebration of competition, making us more efficient, better, so on and so forth. How do you perceive that that goes together? Because obviously to reach a sustainable future, you pretty much have to collaborate and put potentially others above you or the planet above you. So how do you see the balance between competition and what we can benefit from and collaboration that's necessary to get to a better future?
I agree. Both of them are necessary. Competition is our basis of society. We're a capitalist country. The U.S. is a capitalist country. Like China is not a capitalist country, but basically almost. So we need a form of competition. So governments need to promote green investments like through subsidies and obviously not promote it through taxes, but then also the cooperation between it's very multifaceted. There needs to be two parts of it's not just cooperation or just competition, it's both of them combined. So we need to have obviously cooperation between governments, cooperation between people and institutions, and then obviously the competition part. It's like both of them together. Any other questions? Or comments, anything? Maybe about ASD, just my life. Ms. Terrio.
How has your research impacted your career trajectory, what you will study?
So obviously in college, I want to study sustainability, just know more about it, but also I want to study sustainability in like economics and in real life. So how can you actually apply it in a way where it's not like, oh, I'm sitting there like, oh, please, please, please. Something that's actually usable, that we can implement at like government policies or in private businesses.
Sorry, Karan, you're making me think that last year there was a girl in Syria
Yeah.
who graduated. She was doing her self-directed project on essentially economics
Yeah.
and sustainability connection to economics. And through her research, she stumbled into the concept of regenerative economics. So there's an entire kind of new idea, basically being, okay, the truth is the way we're teaching economics right now is 50 years antiquated. Basically, it's the same economics that we're teaching that we were teaching them. Then obviously that's what's gotten us into this issue. So in what ways can we try to teach economics in a way that actually also supports the planetary capacity and regrows, resources instead of the other way around. So you might want to look into regenerative economics as kind of a concept, I guess. And also, of course, recognize your own capacity to make change in that area as well by connecting potentially to economics teachers or wherever that might be, if that's kind of where your truth lies, I guess.
And sustainability obviously relates to like everything, healthcare, education, economic. It's intertwined with everything, as most things are. Anything else?
Nice job.
Thank you.